Video games, a means that was once simply used to entertain children, or perhaps pass the time on a rainy day, has since transformed into the foundation of countless childhoods and has become an important part in both tech and human history. Welcome to a moment in gaming history.
Remember the good old days when you could go to the store and buy a video game and the entire game came right there out of the box, ready to be played from start to finish that very day? When it wasn't required to wait an hour or two for your game to download whatever it needs from the internet before it could be played on your system. Sidebar, I understand that games are much larger now and it isn't as easy to fit an entire game on a disc or a cartridge, but it sure takes a lot of wind out of your sail after the excitement of buying a new game at the store and rushing home to finally play it, only for a loading screen to pop up and say 2 hours and 19 minutes until download completed. Then for some reason the clock stops moving and it becomes the longest 2 hours of your life. Anyways, nowadays almost every game needs a download or even some sort of DLC, a downloadable content for any boomers out there. A lot of these games like Pokemon Sword and Shield require DLC to fully explore the entire game. Imagine that. I spend $60 on a game, but apparently that isn't even enough to explore the whole world. Oh, you want a shiny hunt for legendaries in a cave? Well, you can't. You gotta pay for that, right? Alright, I need to calm down. DLC is easy for developers to implement today due to this wonderful thing called the internet, but it didn't always used to be that way. And that brings me to our topic today, as one game was just released on the Nintendo Switch Online server that has revived some Nintendo DLC content that has been essentially lost or unseen in the Western world for 21 years, making this moment right now a moment in gaming history. As stated before, DLC didn't always exist in the form that we see it today. It wasn't easy for everyone to just hop on the internet and download a patch or an update to add to their games. In the infancy of DLC, Nintendo created their first attempt at downloadable content to be added to games for their handheld system, the Game Boy Advance. For those who are not old enough to remember or have owned a GBA system, the Game Boy Advance did not have online capabilities, so Nintendo introduced the e-reader. The e-reader connected to the GBA and allowed for collectible e-reader cards to be swiped through the device and to add content to existing games. A kid could buy these e-reader cards at the store and collect them just like any other trading cards. In fact, Pokemon even had 4 E-Series sets of Pokemon cards that kids could collect and swipe through their e-readers to turn their GBA into a real-life Pokedex. Some other cool DLCs that e-reader service served was full and complete NES games to be played on your Game Boy, the Eon ticket in Pokemon Emerald that allowed the player to catch a Mew, and in Pokemon Colosseum on the GameCube, 3 additional Shadow Pokemon can be caught with the e-reader, but only in the Japanese copies of the game. Now, why only the Japanese copies? Well, because the e-reader commercially failed in the West. The e-reader was such a commercial failure that Nintendo quickly stopped producing them once they hit shelves in America, and stopped creating e-reader cards for us to all collect. In fact, if you lived in Europe, they didn't even release the e-reader in the continent at all. Now, the game that may have benefited the most by the e-reader is our topic today, Super Mario Advance 4, Super Mario Bros. 3. Now, if this title confuses you, let me explain. The Game Boy Advance was revolutionary in its day. Anyone who had one, especially after owning an original Game Boy, was absolutely blown out of the water by the graphical upgrades and convenience that this handheld offered. So much so that it introduced a whole new generation, including myself, into the world of portable gaming. Many of us were not alive for the eras of the original Mario games, and Nintendo knew that, and with some graphical updates, the games would still stand strong. And they did! Nintendo released the first Super Mario Advance that contained the original Super Mario Bros. 2 game. Then Super Mario Advance 2 that contained Super Mario World. Then taking a slight turn, they put Yoshi's Island as the featured game in Super Mario Advance 3. And lastly, let Super Mario Bros. 3 get the spotlight in Super Mario Advance 4. Now, most of these titles were just graphical updates with some quality of life improvements, like different save systems, new levels, and more. Except Super Mario Advance 4 was given 38 new levels and a new world all through the e-reader, making it one of the earliest forms of downloadable content. Now, the catch was you had to collect all of the cards to complete the whole world. This was a feat that for many years was impossible for anyone outside of Japan due to either the e-reader not existing in your country or the cards being created after the e-reader was discontinued in the West. World E, or the world that the e-reader levels were played on, contains 3 toad houses, each containing a minigame and being locked away from the player until the player collects enough advance coins that can be found in each level. The world also contained a castle. According to the internet, collecting every card that was released in America would only ever allow a player to unlock the first and second toad houses. It saddens me that there could be some cartridge out there that will forever see Mario locked away from the third toad house. And this is how the state of these levels remained until 2016, when a version of Super Mario Advance 4 was released to the Wii U Virtual Console. And to the surprise of Nintendo fans, contained all 38 levels, fully intact and playable. For the first time in the outside of Japan world, never before seen Mario levels were released and playable. Now, why is this such a big deal? Aren't these just Mario levels? Don't you just stomp on some turtles, break some blocks, touch a star, and go do 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 do, and then slide down a flagpole to complete the level? To that, I would have to say to you, naive questioner, you would think. Oh, you would think. But Nintendo freaking cooked! This has homages, gimmicks, challenges, puzzles, minigames, vertical levels, time trials? I don't know if it is because Nintendo wanted to make the purchasing of the e-cards worth it, or what, but it honestly feels like Nintendo was playing Super Mario Maker, or hacked their own ROM to make Nintendo-sanctioned levels and release them to the public. I truly think that these should be experienced firsthand, so I will keep spoilers to a minimum, but you have been warned from here on out. For example, we have recreations of classic Mario levels from other games outside of Super Mario Bros. 3 in the style of Super Mario Bros. 3. We have a level where you need to jump from enemy to enemy as there isn't a floor. There's even a level there's so little time that you cannot complete the level without continuous movement at all times. We even see some gimmicks that haven't been seen since the original Mario Bros. Game, such as Mario goes off the screen to the left and reappears on the screen to the right, and vice versa, going back and forth.
Like, could you imagine Nintendo making anything like this today? This level is filled with nothing but note blocks. Nothing else to land on than just note blocks. How am I supposed to get this coin? I have no idea, but oh, here we go. We gotta jump on the right side of the screen to get all the way over to the left. See, Nintendo's always kind of been known as that company that anyone can play. Anyone with a little bit or a lot of bit of gaming experience can come and have a great time. But these e-reader levels, they have a different feel. These e-reader levels are for experienced gamers. And I think Nintendo understood that in the way that they were distributed.
It honestly feels like Nintendo understood what type of player would go out of their way to collect these e-cards and swipe them into their games. For these levels are certainly one of the harder Mario levels I've ever had to play in my life. In fact, I have just finished playing through these levels on Twitch.tv, and here's one of my reactions of playing through these levels.
Dinky, come on, now go. Come back to me. 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 Yeah! 1 second! Let's go! Let's go! No way! Speedrunner Brat Pack! Let's freaking go! Take this room, for example, in the level Doors O'Plenty. This room features a door, a question block, a P-switch, and a floating door. We know that the question block gives off a trail of coins that seem to go in any number of directions. We also know that the P-switch can turn the coins into blocks. So, that would stand to reason that we want the coins to go underneath the floating door, press the P-switch, and then simply walk to the door and enter inside. Every single time we press this question block, no matter how many times going back and forth through the door, they seem to go a different direction. Are they following Mario? Is it pure RNG? I have no idea. This is something that, embarrassingly so, while live streaming on Twitch, I tried for a full day and could not find an answer to, until I found out purely by accident that moving the analog stick controls the path of the coins. Now, this happened to be really frustrating for me. Here's a live reaction of me finally finding this out. I control them with my stick! No way, dude. Unbelievable. Now, what was frustrating about this is every Mario game I've ever played has kind of given me hints as to what to do next. Or I use my previous knowledge from Super Mario Bros. The original to help me in Super Mario Bros. 3. Or from Super Mario Bros. 3 to help in Super Mario World. It honestly feels like these levels just come up with brand new things on the spot. It's like finding a brand new Nintendo game, but this game was released in 2003. And by the way, your knowledge of previous games won't help you at all.
It is truly a shame that these levels have been lost to the world for over 2 decades. Even if you lived in Japan, I would give you a lot of credit if you have every e-reader card that grants all of these levels. In 2016, we finally got to experience the levels, and no one could finally ever take those away from us. Wait. The eShop's closing? That's right, with the closing of the eShop on both the Wii U and 3DS in March of 2023, the e-reader levels were once again lost. Only players who had already purchased Super Mario Advance 4 on their Wii U system would be allowed to keep the game until this moment in gaming history. That's right, today we now have access once again to all 38 levels thanks to the Nintendo Switch Online Game Boy Advanced application. Now, it is important to note that Nintendo Switch Online is a paid subscription service on your Nintendo Switch. So technically, you cannot own the game. You are technically paying a subscription fee to have access to it. Now, looking at Nintendo's track record, like the Wii servers, the DS servers, the Wii U eShop, the 3DS eShop, after it no longer becomes relevant, Nintendo will most likely shut it down and we could lose access to these levels yet again. However, on the bright side, NSO has given us something that these levels have never had before, the ability to play them online with our friends. It has gone somewhat full circle. Levels that used to be kept from the world can now be played at the same time by two people on the opposite ends of the world. And that, my wonderful friends, is why right now we are living in one special moment in gaming history. Now, before I go, I just wanted to reiterate my point about the Nintendo Switch Online. I personally love the service, but it is certainly a fear that someday Nintendo will stop supporting it. Now, if it's anything like other services that Nintendo has discontinued, fans may create their own servers to keep the services alive, and sometimes improve them. I'm looking at you, Pretendo. But assuming the NSO does go down someday, the only way to own a copy of Super Mario Advance 4 with these e-reader levels is by owning the Virtual Console version on the Wii U. As stated before, this is technically impossible, by legitimate means. Now, if Mr. Paul Skeens can teach you anything, it's that being a pirate isn't so bad if it means preserving gaming history. Gaming is truly an art form now, and a part of history. The only way to own a part of this history is to somehow get a Virtual Console version of Super Mario Advance 4 on your Wii U. I cannot condone pirating, modding, etc., but all I will say is this. I have heard that it is very easy to mod both the Wii U and 3DS, and if Nintendo won't give us a better way to truly own this game, then you are free to make your own choices. Wink, wink. Now, please, go have fun beating all 38 of these levels. I truly think they're going to be more difficult than you think. And if you're not from Japan, you certainly have waited long enough. Thank you for watching. Now go enjoy this moment in gaming history.